Welcome, guys, to another episode of the Instant Impact Podcast. I am so glad that you're here. And the conversation that I had with my guest today was a very personal one. It was a very deep one, and it's one of some of her own challenges to get past a horrific childhood and reconnect with herself. And we also talked about some of my own challenges in that area and things that I have overcome in my life when it comes to connecting with myself. And my guest today is Anne Beaulieu. She is an emotional intelligence coach, speaker. She's the author of 20 books. She is in Vancouver, Canada, and just a beautiful soul inside and out. And she and I connected on LinkedIn in 2018, which is when we originally started to get to know each other. And I had I think it was a 15-minute phone conversation with her. And in 15 minutes, I felt like, oh my gosh, where has this woman been my whole life? She connected with me so quickly on such a deep level that I thought, I want to find out more of who she is, what she's all about, and how she does this, because for each of us who's listening here and on the show, my guess is that for you, building deeper connections with the people in your network and in your life, whether it's your clients, whether it's your just your personal network, that's really important to you. And Anne has this ability of doing that extremely quickly. And what you'll find as we listen is that I think for a lot of us who are really proficient at something or really good at something, oftentimes that comes from a sense of personal pain and having to overcome some extreme hardship in that area. And Anne certainly has done that. And so I'll let her share her own story. But I just thought it might be useful to share part of my own journey here. And a lot of what we talk about on the show is if you are someone who is maybe on the outside, you look like you have it all together, and you're really successful in your field. You're probably successful maybe financially, professionally. You know, your friends would look at you and say, you have an enviable life, but there's something inside deep down that you're struggling with, something that is missing. You feel like, Anne calls it this pretty shell, like on the outside you have it all together, but on the inside, you know, there's something deep that you're struggling with that's causing this disconnection from who your true inner self is, that you know is in there. I want you to really listen to today's episode. And like I said before, I can relate to a lot of this. You know, I grew up with an eating disorder for 17 years of my life. I struggled with this, extremely disconnected from my body, was raped in college. And I don't say those things because I know so many of you listening have gone through those types of things as well, if not harder things. And it's not about sympathy. It's like, those are part of my journey. But what the result of those was that I was extremely disconnected from myself for really most of my life. And it took really staring some hard things in the face and getting coaching and support and help to reconnect with who I really am at my core. And I'm sure I'll do a solo episode down the road where I talk more about what that journey has been like. But what I do want to say is that what I have learned is you do not have to be in struggle with yourself. You do not have to feel like you've got to keep it all together for everything to be okay in your life. And when you can release the thing that you are holding on to that you think is keeping you safe. Hopefully this is making sense. For those of you who have gone through this is probably making a lot of sense. For those of you who don't struggle with this, then maybe it's not. And that's okay, right? We each have our own journey. But when you can really look in the face, whatever the thing is that you are struggling with, and learn to be brave in the face of that. Reconnecting with yourself is an extremely powerful process, and learning that it is possible to achieve amazing results, but also do it in a way that feels really good, that feels really congruent and aligned with who you are, is a beautiful process. And Anne shares her own journey of going through that. And just kind of how she had built up these walls over the years from going through this horrific childhood, and how she on the outside had everything, had houses on every continent, but inside was deeply wounded. And she talks about this year-long journey that she went on to rediscover herself. And part of what I love about the conversation is that it's really a twofold conversation. One is going to be about how do you reconnect with yourself and get out of struggle with anything that's holding you back? And then how do we then springboard off of that to build deeper connections and connect faster and more powerfully with the people in our lives who we want to connect with? And so this episode was powerful for me. The conversation was powerful for me, and I really hope it will be for you as well. And I'm excited to share it with you. So without further ado, let's hear from Anne Beaulieu. And it is so good to have you on the podcast today. I was just joking with you. I was like, we've been chatting for 20 minutes, and some of it could probably go on the podcast. Some of it would mean that I could never publish my podcast. We'll just let the listeners imagine. But I was like, okay, we just have to hit record at some point. Otherwise, we're going to chat forever. So I'm so excited that you joined me today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Elyse. It's an honor and it's a privilege to be here.
Absolutely. So people will wonder, because of your beautiful accent, tell us where you're from.
I grew up in Quebec, in Canada, and I left for university when I was 16. And so there's a bit of a French accent, and I lived abroad most of my life and even spent 10 years in China. So there's a Chinese accent in there. Some people think I'm Polish, some people think I'm Russian. So it's a mixture of accents. I decided I speak my own.
Well, that makes sense, because I saw on your website you have translation into, I think, Mandarin. And I was wondering, it's like, this is interesting. You just don't see that combination of do you want English or Mandarin, at least on most sites that we see here in the States. So that makes a lot of sense. So tell us a little bit, for everybody listening, take us back, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. I am an emotional intelligence coach, a
Mm-hmm.
speaker, and an author. I'm the author of The Emotionally Intelligent Way. It's a series of 20 plus books that contains adult fairy tales for developing emotional intelligence, case studies for emotional intelligence driven sales. I'm the creator of a comic strip called The EQA, and I'm coming up with a financial series called Save Yourself, and it's to assist women make better emotionally intelligent financial decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Side being a coach, an EQ coach, I'm also an economist and a chartered financial analyst. So I'm suited for this type of work.
Oh my gosh. I mean, when you said 20 books, I felt tired all of a sudden. I was like, I don't know how this woman has done it. I mean, you're a powerhouse. You've done so much. Tell us a little bit about your backstory. Like, why do you do what you do? And how did you even get into this line of work?
Okay. We're going to jump at when I was 16 years old. So I entered university at 16. And I would love the audience to think, like, why did she do that? Why that age? And I got my first degree, like a bachelor's degree in translation. Then came the master's in economics. Then came the CFA. By the age of 26 years old, I was an assistant vice president for one of the largest investment management firms on Bay Street in Toronto. It's like Wall Street.
Mm.
I married a man who became the country head of Hong Kong, China, and Taiwan for Swiss Bank. He is one of the three forefathers who brought China to the derivatives market, to the international financial markets in the world. I got married. I had the white picket fence. I had houses on every continent that the sky was the limit. Together, we got three beautiful children. Sounds like a great story, right?
Yes, it does. Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like a story that many listeners might want to have. So, but there was something with it. I did not know what it was. For example, every Christmas morning, I would look at the Christmas tree early morning, and I knowing that my kids at some point would tiptoe downstairs and look at the gifts and get all excited. And I'd stand in front of the tree and cry,
Hmm.
not knowing why, just crying, so sad. And I went through my life like that. I had everything everyone could imagine. I had diplomas that people would think, like, how did she do it? And yet I felt worthless. I felt no good. I felt my whole life was about pleasing others, and I craved that love and approval. But it was so well packaged. I looked like this it's like I had it all together,
Mhm.
but nothing was put together. It just looked good on the surface. Have you ever watched The Matrix,
I
the
have.
movie?
Yeah.
Okay. I met Morpheus in The
Mhm.
Matrix, and his name is Dove Baron. And Dove held a mirror to my face so that I saw what I was. And what I realized was that I had very little compassion for myself and others. Everything was about, I'm going to overpower you. If I'm smarter than you, then no one will ever hurt me again.
Hmm.
Now, where did that come from? I grew up at the end of a dirt road in a little town of 3,600 people, farmland. My mother was psychotic, clinically psychotic, which is another term for clinically crazy. My whole childhood, she was pregnant with a child of Jesus Christ. So imagine as a small kid trying to make sense of that reality.
Hmm.
And people said they compete with their siblings or other people or at work, colleagues, whatever it is. For me, I competed with ghost children. The movie I see, in the movie when he says like, I see dead people, it took it took meaning for me.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine.
So that was one thing. So you would say, okay, where was her father? My father was a sociopath
Hmm.
and very disconnected, emotionally disconnected man, extremely violent. And one example of that is that man decided one day that he would sit in his garage and he would carve a whip out of a winter tire
Hmm.
so that he could break, quote unquote, the will of his children.
Ah.
Anything you can imagine in your worst nightmares has happened and more.
Oh my God.
So I disconnected very, very young. And through working with Dove is I just collapsed because I was so used to looking in. It's like when you look at a situation and you're outside the window and you're looking in and you want to have what they have and you're wondering why do they have what they have, why do they look happy, and I was craving that loving, that caring, but I had
Hmm.
no idea how to do it because I had never been taught.
Hmm.
And the
Mhm.
only way to do that is by going in. We have to dive within. So I had to dive in and face all the hurt that had happened to me and that I had suppressed, that I
Hmm.
had shut down. And it was for my ego, public humiliation 101. I was at the top of my career. I was at the top. I was super well liked. Of course, I was a nice girl. I had it all together. And but realizing that I was deeply hurt and not knowing how to heal myself. So
Hmm.
I just sank like a rock. I stopped coaching for a year. I emailed all my clients and I said, I cannot coach you because I need to take care of me. I need to find myself. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want. I am unsure.
So were you
So
you were coaching on emotional intelligence when
yeah,
your own journey was really happening
yeah.
as well?
But like
Hmm.
like a lot of coaches who haven't done their work, I was healing myself to my clients. Let's put it bluntly.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was full of judgment and projections. And I'm going to tell you who to be, and I'm going to tell you what to do, and give me another 20. And it was that tough love and mental toughness. But it had nothing to do with that. When we're emotionally connected to something, we move mountains.
Mhm.
We move mountains. So for me, I dove in and dove by my side. People that I thought were friends walked away. People sat me down and they were like, snap out of it. I just kept crying because I was like, oh my God, I'll never get out of this. But through it all, I became public. And something magical happened. People started befriending me.
Hmm.
5, 10, 25, 100 requests a day. And I was like, why? And they were messaging me, you're so real.
Mm.
You're saying out loud what we're all thinking, but we don't dare to say because we're so afraid of what people are going to think of us.
Were
So
you sharing on video about this? Were you doing
I
like,
did.
so
I
you were
did. It's
sharing
on my
very publicly?
website. There is
Mhm.
a video, and there's also a book that I
Mhm.
wrote, which is called For the True Love of the Game.
Hmm.
A glimpse into my life story. So at the bottom, I found myself. It's easier said than done, but I did. And I found this deeply wounded little girl, and I picked her up. And I rose from my ashes. I did. And I became this powerhouse that I am today. And I say I have the goosebumps. And how I know is when I walk on stage. There was this woman one time who sent me this message. She said, I didn't know you, but when you walked on stage, the way you walk, you had my attention.
Hmm.
And she said, and when you opened your mouth and talked, you had my heart.
Wow. Wow. I mean, for anyone who speaks or who shares their story to get that type of feedback, you know you're doing the right thing. And one of the things, so your story, it resonates so much with me. And I know for a lot of people listening, it does as well, because for any of us who have emotionally disconnected from ourselves because of whatever sort of past trauma or whatever we've dealt with growing up, um, I think you have to, at a certain point, face it. Like you have to really just face it and dive um, in order to get past it. Like I've shared with my audience, I have not experienced trauma to the level that you have. I did struggle with an eating disorder from the age of like 15 until actually last year, and it took like getting in a room with my coach for a day and just finally admitting it and having some like just looking at it and being honest about it to finally feel free from it. So I really just respect like what you shared and what you did. And that was one of the things that to me stood out when I was spending some time on your site before this is I think when we talk about emotional intelligence, the typical perception of it is that it's how you relate to other people. And your take on it seems to be much more introspective first. So if you can share a little bit about that and about like how you view emotional intelligence, especially now in light of your own journey, I think that would be really useful.
Is when I dove within myself to find this wounded little girl. Because the one thing that I realized is what is the common denominator with every experience that we have.
Mhm.
Who is the common denominator with every experience that we have? When we are externally focused, when we want to please others, which often what a disorder is, even an eating disorder, why would that happen? And we can call it eating disorder, but to me it's no different than being a workaholic who works 24/7, or having that third glass of wine at night, or the junkie who puts drugs into their veins. Like, it's all the same thing. Who is a common denominator? And when we're externally focused, we think of person A, our kid, our lover, our dog, like we see all these people, siblings, parents, friends, relatives, colleagues. No, the common denominator, it's us.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And when we realize that, the victim within each of us, it leaves. Because who are we going to blame?
Right.
We stop blaming others because we're the common denominator.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We brought all these relationships into our life.
Yeah. And that's a very scary thing, I think, for someone who is using whatever sort of coping mechanism they're using to disassociate, whether it's eating disorder, whether it's workaholic, like you said, whether it's alcohol. And it's like, at at the end of the day, that you're doing it to yourself. But it's so hard because it becomes such a crutch, whatever that habit or behavior is, it becomes such a crutch just to kind of mask and not feel. And I think it's hard. What would be for somebody who is listening and is realizing, okay, I know I'm doing this. Maybe they've known it for a while, or maybe they're starting to recognize and realize that they have been disassociating from themselves, or that they do have challenges with like connecting with themselves. What would be some of those first steps they could take in order to start to go down that journey of repair?
There are 3 questions, and they're the same for each and every one of us.
Mm-hmm.
Am I able to do this? Am I able to emotionally connect with myself? We're all able to. All of us. We were born connected. And look, you've seen babies, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look at a baby, they are 100%, I believe they're 100% connected. You hear a baby's laugh. The reason why we're so attracted to a baby's laugh is because they're so real. It's crystal, it's clear. When they're happy, we know it. When they're sad, they cry. If they're pissed, we know because they'll just be howling. We've all seen this. So are we able to? The answer is yes. Are we willing?
Mm.
That becomes a bit more challenging.
Yeah.
Some of us, that crutch, we will take the crutch, because if we stop taking the crutch, then we have to admit that we are 100% responsible for our results.
Yeah.
Then, which means that we have to tell the world, oh, I'm full of blind spots. I don't know the heck I'm doing. Oh, that image of myself, oh, it is twisted. I've got to fix it. So we go build that self-awareness. So
Mm.
that's the second one. Are we willing? But the one where most people are the most challenged is, am I ready?
Yes.
What got you ready to to be with your coach that day?
I think I realized that it was the one place where I felt like I was really holding myself back in my life. And I was so sick of it that I was finally just sick of it. And I was like, yeah, I think for a lot of people who do emotionally disconnect, they can be very high functioning people on the outside. You use the term the pretty shell, which I resonate with a lot. Um, so you think, well, my life is still okay. I'm doing well. But then I think it's just reaching a point where you say, well, what would it be like though if I dealt with this? And what
Yeah.
would be possible for me if I could finally get free of this? And it was just kind of that being fed up. And then just, I sent her a letter. I'd booked a VIP day with her. I said, I've never told anyone this, but this is going on and I have to have your help dealing with it. And it was just like putting it out there, kind of like you talked about being vocal about your struggle and challenge, and how sometimes it's like laying it all on the line, where all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm in, I'm committed, I've told people. Now it's not in hiding anymore. It's not in secret. So it starts to lose its power.
And you said something that is very profound, which is, I got the goosebumps, and it's commitment.
Mm.
Most of us are extremely resilient, but we confuse resilience with stubbornness. I'll get over it. It will get better. It's life. When I hear that's life, it's that's stubbornness. But when we become committed, is usually because we are so tired of the pain. We are so fed up that we've reached the point, what I call the point of no return, which is actually returning to love, returning to ourselves.
Mm.
When we say, I'm so tired of the pain, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something better than this. And I will do whatever it takes in my power to discover what it is. And
Mm.
it's that commitment we come home. What I tell people is I hope that by the time you make that decision, you still have your life.
Mm.
Because most people wait until it's too late.
Mm.
They wait after the divorce. They wait when their kids are not speaking to them anymore. They wait after they've lost millions in their business that year. They wait until their alcohol get out of hand. They like whatever they wait to that point where they feel they have quote unquote nothing to live for.
Mm.
And then in that place of last ditch effort, they go all in. And that's what people think hitting rock bottom and pulling out has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
But what would life be, as you said, if we took charge of our life before there's never such a thing as too late, but we took charge of our life much sooner? How
Mm.
magnificent would that be?
And I think it's such a good question to ask at any stage of life is how could it be better? How could this look different? And it can be hard to take action when everything is pretty good. It's like, it's pretty good. I'm doing okay. But I think if you're listening and you're realizing I still have some inner struggle with myself, like there's a piece of me that is either not congruent or that I know is like chipping away at my potential or is holding me back, then I think that's when it's like, if you can really ask that question and take action on it, even if everything seems okay or seems pretty good, there's something so much better waiting for you, even if it's just your experience of the world. Because when you can get free of that demon and that thing, life is a million times different. And you just don't know it until you experience it.
Yeah.
You know?
And
Yeah.
most people, they don't understand that we are the average of the five people we hang out with the most. We're the average of their salary. We're the average of their beliefs.
Mm.
The reason why I believe that you took charge of your life and you contacted that coach, if you had asked your friends, they might have said, oh, you're okay, Elyse, everything's okay, it's just a bad day, or it's this, and you walk away questioning yourself.
Mhm.
But when we take charge and when we question those beliefs, and that's the thing, if there was one tip I could give anyone, question everything you have ever been taught.
Mm.
Because what we deem normal is what each of us individually grew up with. You want to know what is lost in translation? The definition of normal. Because my normal growing up, vastly different from yours, probably.
Yeah, no kidding. It's so true though. We tend to become what we see. And we tend to normalize what we see around us. I want to ask you about kind of shifting a little bit from the connection with yourself to connecting with others, because part of what I love sharing about on this show is how do we build better relationships and connections with others. And part of why I love having this conversation with you is that it all stems from our relationship with ourselves. But then once we've really done some of that work and that inner work, and we feel like we've got that great connection, what would you say are some of the biggest things that you teach your clients as far as how they can use their emotional intelligence or improve their emotional intelligence when it comes to relating to others, whether that's clients, whether that's their network, whether that's their family? Like, tell me a little bit of that.
Well, this first step is they must acknowledge that they are the common denominator with every relationship. So there has to be a place of ownership.
Mm.
And that one relationship fits all. It's like one glove fits all. It has just different depths with different people. With some people we feel closer than others.
Mm.
And when we start discovering that relationship with ourselves, we start knowing who we really are and what we stand for. And what we stand for, we get to personal boundaries. Personal boundaries is something that I teach, and it's something that I coach on. And I'll give you an example. I had a discovery call yesterday, and super great lady, fabulous, has got this terrific business, and people would have stayed on the call for like an hour with her. It's like, oh my goodness, I got her time. This is like, wow. 15 minutes I had booked, that she had booked with me. At the 14-minute mark, I said, we have 1 minute left in our call. I said, but we have so much to say. Our call will be done. If you would like to speak more, you can book another call.
Mm.
And she said to me, she says, no one had ever talked to me like that.
Mm.
And she says, I'm walking away today with a huge pearl. How in my life I say one thing, but then I easily let it go. And you showed me more about personal boundaries today than I had ever learned in all my life.
Wow.
So personal boundaries is people think personal boundaries can be moved. And we think that personal boundaries are for others. No,
Mm.
personal boundaries are for us.
Mm-hmm.
They're for the little child inside of us to feel safe and come out and play and be who they are, no matter who or what stands in front of them. That is the purpose of personal boundaries.
Wow. How would you advise someone think about getting comfortable with setting boundaries if they've struggled with it? Because I think for a lot of people, especially people pleasers, we feel like people won't like us if
Yeah.
we say you've only got 15 minutes on this call, or if we set another boundary. Like, how would you encourage people to think differently about that?
It's a lot, it's questions. A great coach asks powerful questions.
Mm.
And when I help my clients with boundaries, for example, one lady said to me, you cannot smoke, no smokers. And I said, okay, what does that mean? Does not smoke. No cigarettes, no drugs, no nothing. Hmm. If he is a recreational smoker, does that work? I don't know. Hmm.
Mm.
If he smokes one cigarette a month, does that work? If he smoked for 20 years, but then stopped yesterday, he's a non-smoker.
Hmm.
Does that work? And all of a sudden they go, I have a headache. And that's the clarity. The clarity is as to what that really means for us. Each boundary must be crystal clear,
Mm.
and it is applied no matter who or what is in front of us. I have a boundary that if I call you and I hear you typing on your phone, like, especially with my children,
Mhm.
I say, and they're typing on the computer, I will say, I'm going now. And
Hmm.
I love you. Have a good day. And now, when they were like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Now, when I call them and they're early 20s, my daughter will say, oh, I need 1 minute to finish typing. Please stay on the line, mom. Please. I'll be on the call. And as soon as that minute is done, she's on the call fully.
Wow. Wow.
That's a boundary.
Hmm. Do you think that when we demonstrate setting boundaries, that people end up liking us more for it, or is it really just that the wrong people will go and the right people will still be there?
If we are who we truly say we are, if we are integral,
Mm-hmm.
then people will feel safe with us.
Mm.
My mentor, this is, if you have no enemies, then you're a people pleaser.
Hmm.
And well, how do I put this? When we are who we truly say we are, we create safety. And when someone feels safe, there's a respect. There's a mutual respect. So you will say, do people walk away? Yes. But the people who walk away are the people who might want to manipulate us in that moment, but are unable to because they just go boing against the boundary and they go flying.
Yeah.
But the people who stay, they thrive with us because we all love, and it's my belief, but I believe we all love to know where we stand.
I agree. Yeah, I've actually never thought about it that way, that when we can help other people feel safe, that really is providing for a need for them.
Yes.
That's a basic human need. And gosh, I don't know. Okay, I need a moment. You should say something else.
Okay, well, I'll
That's
tell you. I'll tell you a story about Morpheus.
okay.
So Morpheus had sensed deeply, like all the wounds and everything. And on my first meeting with him, and this guy works with like Fortune 500 companies, and like he's considered one of the top 100 speakers to hear in your lifetime. And I remember on my second meeting with him, I'm sitting on the couch, and he asked me, he said, "How safe do you feel with me?"
Hmm.
And I went inside my head, and I thought, "Holy shit, what is the right answer? What should I say? If I
Yeah.
say something bad, he's going to kick me out of his." That's where I went in my head. And I lied.
Hmm.
I said 10%. Because if I had told the truth, it would have been more like 3. So we
Mm.
joke about it now, 5 years later. But when I told him 10%, he looked at me, and I will always remember this. He looked at me with such tenderness and kindness, and he put his hands together, and he said, "For that 10%, I am deeply honored."
Hmm. Wow.
Safety is everything.
Hmm. That's incredible. What would be, I'm just curious, and we're coming up on time here, but I just love this topic. As far as how to make other people feel safe, is it all through boundaries and through setting boundaries, or is there anything else we should be thinking about in our interactions with other people that would help do that?
We feel safe. Safety comes first, obviously. And how do we make people feel safe? We cannot make anyone feel safe in a sense that if I would tell you, "Feel safe," would they? No. It's a feeling that we get. So we create safety to the extent that we feel safe within ourselves to
Mm.
be ourselves. So it all comes through vulnerability. Can I look at my limiting beliefs? Can I be honest with myself, truly honest with where I am at? Can I ask for help? Am I authentic? Do I speak my mind? I have people tell me I am confident. Really? If there are 200 people with their eyes turned on you and you walk into the room and you're the only person walking, how do you feel? Tell me how you feel.
Mm.
And that tells a lot about what's going on. So, to make someone feel safe, the only thing we can do is by putting 100% in what you said earlier, becoming fully committed to knowing who we are so that people get a strong sense of who we are and what we do.
Hmm.
It is the only way, in my book, that truly works.
Oh my gosh. I love everything about this conversation. Thank you. I feel like I need to go like take a walk and just marinate on it. How can people, and first of all, thank you for just everything you've shared. It really has impacted me, and I know it's impacted everyone listening. Tell us about how people can connect with you. And I know that you're also doing a really amazing, generous giveaway. So tell everybody a little bit about that too.
Okay. My website is walkinginside.com. So it's walking inside, one word, because life is a journey within. I
Mm.
truly believe that. And people can connect with me at Anne, A-N-N-E, at walkinginside.com. I am on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn. And if I may, I have a beautiful gift for your audience. So if they tune into the show, we'll give a link later when the episode airs where they can sign up for a sweepstake and they will get one complimentary 1 hour coaching session with me on any topic of their choice.
Mm. Guys, I'm going to be rushing to enter that sweepstakes. So y'all have got to beat me now because I want the coaching. Thank you so much. That's incredible. And someone is going to be very, very lucky to spend that time with you. I think after listening to what you've shared, people will know just the incredible value of that time. So I want to just acknowledge you again for your bravery and for doing the hard work of dealing with everything that you did grow up with, and then for helping other people go through that hard work as well and show up better in the world. And I think everyone who's listened, myself included, can show up better for other people as a result of learning from you. So thank you.
Thank you. You're very welcome. It's truly an honor to be here. And like you, one of the reasons why I contacted you on LinkedIn, because I love like who you are and what you
Mm,
stand for. You're very real for me.
mm,
And to me, it's a breath, it's a breath of fresh air. And I believe that we're all here to walk in one another home.
mm.
And we're all friends. We're all holding hands, whether we see it or not. At the bottom of it, we're all good people. And we all want to be happy. And we all want to see the people we love happy. And the only way to do that is by becoming emotionally intelligent.
Beautiful. Thank you, Anne.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me on.